Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Stitt. I am the Comms Director for Assemblymember Robert Rivas. Thank you for joining us this morning. This press conference is relating to the California COVID-19 farm worker relief package. A press release detailing the package will be sent out to you momentarily. If you do not receive it in the next 5 minutes, please make a comment in the chat box and we can send you a copy. This will be recorded and we can send people the video upon request. Before we start, I wanted to provide a quick overview of our format. Assemblymember Robert Rivas and Assemblymember Lorena Gonzalez and Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia will speak first, followed by farmworker advocates Kate Reno of UFCW and Irene de Baracua of Linderas Campesinas will speak about the real-life hardships of farm workers experiencing the pandemic right now and the relief needed. We hope most of our time will be devoted to questions, though. So we will unmute all participants once the panelists are done speaking. And if you have any press inquiries after the press conference or would like to set up an interview, please feel free to reach out to me at 916-802-1276, and I will also put my information in the chat box. And with that, I will kick it over to Assemblymember Rivas.
So good morning and welcome everybody. My name is Robert Rivas and I represent Assembly District number 30. Which is considered part of the Central Coast in the Monterey Bay region. It includes some of the most productive agricultural land, not only in California, but really in all parts of the world. And I really appreciate everyone joining us for this virtual press conference, for taking an interest in the work that we've done over the last several months to advance a first in the nation farm worker COVID relief package to our governor. And I'm joined this morning by some incredible people and in making some introductory remarks after the ones I make, my two colleagues, Assemblymember Lorena Gonzalez, who has been a joint author from the very beginning of our priority bill, Assembly Bill 2043, and who is the current chair of the California Latino Legislative Caucus, and who is also celebrating a birthday today. And so happy birthday to my colleague, and really appreciate her and thank her for all of the work, all the advocacy that she does up and down the state of California. And so really appreciate you being with us, Lorena. Also with us is Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia, who is from the Coachella Valley, who has been a joint author, who has been a lead partner with me for this relief package since it was first announced in April. He was the first, one of the first conversations I had when we made the decision together to partner and to really lead this effort here in California. Also with us, I know she was going to do her very best to make this event, is Assemblymember Alois Reyes from the Inland Empire, who has also been a co-author for our legislation and who has really been at the forefront of all of these efforts and over the last few months. We'll also hear about the urgent need for these bills from two farm worker advocates, Pete Maturino of UFCW Local 5 and Irene Baracua of Líderes Campesinas. I also want to acknowledge my other colleagues who are with us in support, who are with us on this call, many of whom are co-authors for this legislative package. I believe Ash Kalra, my neighbor to the north, representing Assembly District number 27, is with us. Assembly Republican Leader Marie Waldron and Assembly Member Mathis is with us as well. And now this package of bills has been a true bipartisan and collaborative effort over the last few months. We have worked with Republicans, with Democrats, with growers, with farm workers, with advocates, and with industry representatives. The three bills we have sent to our governor include Assembly Bill 2043, which will improve workplace health and safety, Assembly Bill 2164, which will improve rural and community access to healthcare by expanding telehealth services, and Assembly Bill 2165, which will improve rural access to justice by expanding the availability of e-filing. Now, these bills were drafted with the assistance of so many stakeholders, and I want to acknowledge in particular the support our office received and has continued to receive from the farm worker community, including especially the California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation, the United Food and Commercial Workers, and the California Food and Farming Network, and from the grower and farmer community, including especially the California Association of Wine Grape Growers. Michael Miller was incredibly important to our efforts. The California Citrus Mutual, the Cal Chamber, and the Grower Shipper Association of Central California, who certainly not only helped us on these bills, but has really been leading this proactive effort to protect our agricultural workers on the Central Coast in the Salinas Valley since the onset of this pandemic. But the urgent need for help in the many places throughout our state that grow and harvest our nation's food supply. These areas, these regions in our state of agricultural workers, of their families, have experienced the worst of the COVID-19 crisis. As has been well highlighted and documented, many of our agricultural regions here in California have seen disproportionately high rates of COVID-19 cases. And clearly, this has threatened California's most vulnerable workers. It has threatened their families and an industry that is vital to our food security, not only in California and in the United States, but globally. In the county of Monterey, Latinos represent a staggering 93% of confirmed COVID-19 cases, but represent only 61% of countywide population. And according to recent data, agricultural workers, farm workers, are 3 times more likely to contract COVID-19 than the general population in the county. A recent study from UCLA shows that Latino deaths have quintupled since May because of their status as unsung essential workers, such as our agricultural workers and our farm workers. And Latinos make up a disproportionate 49% of statewide deaths from COVID-19. And I have no doubt that the governor understands the extent of this problem. He has recently sent millions in aid to agricultural workers in Imperial County and the Central Valley. But now is the time. Now is the time to expand these efforts throughout our entire state. As I previously mentioned, this legislative package is a first of its kind in the nation. As this prudent legislation is a bold effort to protect the health, the safety, and access to state services for all agricultural workers in California. And it will go a long way to prevent disruptions to our nation's food supply. Having recently been named the chair of the California Assembly Agriculture Committee, it is my top priority to keep our agriculture industry strong and competitive, and it would be impossible to achieve that without a healthy workforce. Altogether, this legislative package promises needed relief on a variety of fronts for our state's farm and other agricultural workers who, as the data has made very, very clear, are among the most vulnerable for exposure to COVID-19. You can find a full list of our policy proposals in our press release or on our Assembly website. The time for action on these bills is now, and I hope our governor, Mr. Newsom, will act very quickly to sign them into law. And so with that, I'm happy to introduce and pass it over to Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez.
Thank you, Robert. And I'm a little challenged here. I'm in front of my house because my kids are in every room doing distance learning, but that's no challenge compared to what I know our workers up and down the state in our agricultural fields are facing. So I want to thank you, Mr. Rivas, for your leadership. I want to congratulate you on your newly appointed chairmanship to the Agricultural Committee. I have to say it's a first, I think, in the nation where we have somebody who grew up in farm worker housing leading the Agricultural Committee with an eye towards ensuring that we have a good, strong agricultural economy and a balanced approach and protection of workers as well. So congratulations on that. It's huge. As chair of the California Latino Caucus, we have been proud to partner and highlight these bills throughout this year. This is a priority. When we started it in April, it was all about COVID. We knew that we needed to take a second look. We didn't know how bad it would get, and it did get bad. It has gotten bad for our agricultural workers, and we know that they're disproportionately affected by the COVID crisis. But now we have on top of that wildfires that are forever, every day, really testing the will of our state to protect agricultural workers and to ensure that we have healthy farms in the future. For your leadership, I'm proud to join us on these bills, and will continue to push and ask the governor to sign these important bills, and glad to see the bipartisan effort here today. Love the fact that you're bringing in not just farm workers, but the farm owners and farmers, the growers, business and labor together to try to achieve things that we need to achieve immediately for our workers. So thank you, and let's get these very important measures signed.
And up next is Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia. Eduardo, are you ready?
Yeah. Thank you for disabling the camera. I appreciate the opportunity to jump right in. I'll say a few words in acknowledgement to our new chairman, Robert Rivas, for his work on this relief package, as he's mentioned, the first of its kind in this nation. I think it'd be important that perhaps I say a few words in Spanish for those who are tuning in. Este esfuerzo ha sido un esfuerzo gracias al liderazgo del asambleísta Rivas, quien propuso estas tres propuestas para asegurar que podamos proteger la seguridad, la salud y el acceso a los servicios para nuestros campesinos. Un esfuerzo bipartidista que trabajó con fuerzas externas, específicamente grupos que representan a nuestros campesinos aquí en el estado de California. Para nosotros esta conferencia de prensa es específicamente para llamar atención al gobernador Newsom, que le pedimos que apruebe estas medidas importantísimas para los californianos que están trabajando ahorita como trabajadores esenciales en los campos de California. Estamos muy conformes con el trabajo que ha salido durante la sesión legislativa para poder asegurar que nuestros campesinos tengan una voz fuerte en el estado de California, las protecciones necesarias que se requieren en este momento por parte de la crisis de salud pública del COVID-19. Para nosotros fue un placer poder trabajar con el asambleísta Rivas y los otros compañeros y compañeras que nos acompañan hoy. Y con eso, pues, de vuelta, esta llamada de acción es para pedirle al gobernador Newsom que firme estas propuestas para asegurar que podamos proteger los intereses de nuestros campesinos y el desarrollo económico de agricultura que existe aquí en el estado de California. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much. And Pete from UFCW, Local 5.
Once again, thank you for having me here today. Muchas gracias por darme la oportunidad de participar en esta conferencia de prensa. I work for UFCW Local 5 as the Agriculture Division Director. Trabajo con la unión de UFCW Local 5 como el director de la División Agricultura. Farm workers are literally a lifeline in this pandemic. They are working round the clock to keep us all fed. They are literally putting their lives on the line to do it. Los campesinos son ciertamente salvavidas en esta pandemia. Están trabajando día y noche para mantenernos con todos los alimentos. Y ciertamente están arriesgando sus vidas para hacerlo. The 700,000 farm workers in California are in jobs that were risky before the pandemic. Let's be clear, racism and anti-immigrant discrimination are primary reasons farm workers have long faced extreme and risk on the job. and now are facing unbearable life-threatening risks to put food on our tables. Los 700 trabajadores agrícolas en el estado de California tienen trabajos que eran riesgosos antes de la pandemia. Hay que ser claros, el racismo y la discriminación contra inmigrantes son una de las razones principales por las que los trabajadores y ahora se enfrentan en los riesgos insoportables y potencialmente mortales, todo por poner comida en nuestras mesas. We call these workers essential. It's time California treated them that way. Le llamamos a estos trabajadores esenciales. Es hora de que California debe de tratar a estas personas de esa manera. And to give them the needed information to keep themselves and their coworkers, their families safe from the virus when they go home from their work. I have a couple of incidents that happened this year. In the month of August in Santa Maria, California, 85 farm workers working for one contractor were infected with COVID-19. En el mes de agosto en Santa María, 85 trabajadores campesinos que trabajaban con un contratista fueron infectados con el coronavirus. In another incident, an agricultural worker that I represent was infected and had to spend 2 or 3 weeks in the hospital. And now he has an $80,000 bill. And the question is, who pays for it? And those are the kind of help that they need. Un trabajador agrícola que yo represento estaba infectado y tuvo que pasar 2 o 3 semanas en el hospital. Y ahora la pregunta es, tiene un bill de $80,000. ¿Quién lo va a pagar? En otra ocasión, 23 trabajadores campesinos en una empresa de ajo que yo represento se enfermaron con el coronavirus y uno de ellos murió. In another incident, 23 farm workers at a garlic company that I represent have gotten sick from COVID-19, and one of my members died from that group. In all these instances, the workers were notified of infections in their workplace, got tested for the virus, received the 8 hours paid sick leave because the union helped them get that information, and they needed to maintain them safe and protected. But most of California farm workers are not represented by a union, like the UFCW, and don't have access to information needed to what their employer is supposed to provide workers, or access to paid sick leave, navigate the workers' compensation system, or report workplace violations. En muchas ocasiones, el problema es de que los trabajadores estos en agricultura, los campesinos, no tienen acceso a información y no tienen la ayuda como otros trabajadores que tienen uniones donde pueden recibir información. La UFCW está apoyando el bill de la Asamblea 2043. UFCW is proud to support AB 2043 to ensure farm workers will have access to the information they need through a targeted bilingual outreach campaign to educate agricultural workers under Cal OSHA guidance, as well as COVID-19 related paid sick leave and workers' compensation benefits. Another bill is essential to inform workers that UFCW is sponsoring is AB 685, by Assemblymember Luis Gomez Reyes. AB 685 will save lives and help reopen the economy safely, requiring employers to report COVID-19 infections. It is essential that all workers in California, and especially our farm workers, have access to information needed to protect themselves, their co-workers, their families, every time they go home at night. Es esencial de que todos los trabajadores en California, especialmente los campesinos, tengan el acceso a la información necesaria para protegerse a ellos mismos, sus compañeros de trabajo, sus familias, a quienes ellos regresan a casa cada noche. I urge the governor to sign the California Farm Worker COVID-19 Relief Package, AB 685 and AB 685, to ensure the California farm workers have the information they need to keep themselves and their families safe. Le pido al gobernador que firme el paquete de ayuda de trabajadores agrícolas en California de COVID-19 y AB 685 para garantizar que los trabajadores agrícolas en el cambio tengan la información necesaria para mantenerse ellos salvo y ellos mismos y sus familias. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
And Irene is up next.
Hi, thank you everybody. So my name is Irene. I'm with Líderes Campesinas. Líderes Campesinas is a network of women and farm worker leaders. And as you all know, Latino immigrants, agricultural workers in general are the backbone of the state's economy. In April, Líderes Campesinas took it upon themselves to respond, of course, to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we did this by gathering the testimonies and experiences throughout our network. It's a statewide network movement of farm worker women and their families. And as an organization composed of these current and former farm workers, we felt that representing, of course, the voice of these families was extremely important. So we wrote a letter to the governor and first partner, Jennifer Newsom, addressing the major concerns that were pinpointed, right? 8 major concerns, and we know there's many more. But we wanted to make sure that this vulnerable population made up of largely undocumented and underinsured people were represented. And being that we are mainly focused on prevention, that was our main motivation, was prevention. So this letter mapped out a work plan for us and to be able to know who our allies and partners were, right, to get the work done, as we all know we can't do this alone. So seeing this bill and the farm worker package, it was automatically very much aligned with our work plan. And so for that reason, it's become a part of our plan as well, supporting it, following it closely. We also signed on to and are very grateful for a multitude of letters by our partners, allies, local and state officials. A lot of change has been made. And unfortunately, we find that with the crisis, it simply just hasn't been enough. And that's why we urge the signing of these bills, so together we can all continue the work that's been done. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done with COVID-19, stopping the spread of this virus, securing the ag industry, the food system overall, and the public's health. We have found that what exactly we were trying to prevent has happened. We've seen outbreaks that many of our members, in places that they work, in places that they live, and it's very frustrating. It's frustrating because at times you feel powerless, and many of our members have spoken up, have been testimonies to this. They've lost their jobs for speaking up. They've been the actors, right? The ones going out and observing what's being done wrong, the ones bringing the masks, the PPE when it wasn't made available, and to no one's fault, right? There was a lack of testing and masks at one time, and now we're at a phase where there is more PPE and there is more actions being done on behalf of state agencies. But for this reason, we've hung in there. We've been supporting the need and stressing the need for this bill. We have examples like Cynthia, one of our members in Monterey County. Not only is she battling the unprecedented challenges of working, packing, and harvesting during this historic pandemic and the wildfire season, but cancer as well. She's a leader like many of our leaders, right? That have risked not only being exposed to the virus, but also losing her job. She's lost 4 jobs during this pandemic. She was featured in a documentary. She's one of those that's going to represent the many voiceless farm workers living in the shadows. And so what this bill to us represents is true action on behalf of our governor and on behalf of our assembly members and legislatures. And it's something that it makes us all more aligned in a collective effort to actually get the progress that we all deserve. Also, we are part of a research team, the COVID-19 Farm Worker Study, and I encourage you all to look at some of those results. The data has represented many things that we already know. Over 54% of farm workers are undocumented and uninsured. We've had cases of people calling us, nonstop phone calls of people in desperate situations. Many times it's women, right, that hold that household, that secure our labor force because they are the maintainers of many times the family, and the men are usually more reserved. But we've had men calling us because of lack of money for diapers for their children, inability to educate on what the COVID-19 really means, inability to get these tests and checkups, and fear because of the immigration issues that we all know exist, fear of collections of costs. We had someone with a $57,000 bill who went in with COVID-19 symptoms. He makes $27,000 a year, And in order to keep working, he went to do his test for COVID-19 and ended up with, obviously, many undiagnosed illnesses exist. So he had an ulcer and ended up with a $57,000 bill. So something we've really stressed is direct education to what COVID-19 is, more healthcare assistance, right, from doctors. And that's something that we're going to continue working on, is getting, doctors to the fields and getting this outreach and oversight through Kalosha. And we appreciate many of the changes and efforts that have been done. In many cases, also, UC Merced has come up with the Farmworker profile that I also encourage you to see, that farm workers are working twice as hard as anyone in any other industry. And so we know not only are they essential now during this pandemic, but always have been essential. And so we urge the governor to support, please, by approving this bill package. Thank you very much to all of you.
Great, and now I invite the press to ask questions. We will now unmute everyone, though we ask if you are not speaking, please mute yourself, and please direct your questions to a specific person or assembly member.
Muy buenas tardes, good morning. Good morning. Yeah, this is a question for Líderes Campesinas, Irene. I don't know if she speaks Spanish or not. I don't know if her answer can be in Spanish. ¿Ya?
Sí,
Okay.
sí.
Esta es la pregunta. Muchísima ayuda se ha enviado a la costa central. Growers, shippers con Clínica de Salud están trabajando juntos, dando máscaras N95, van a hacer exámenes médicos. No se está hablando mucho de eso. ¿Los campesinos están recibiendo esa clase de ayuda, sí o no? ¿Cuáles son sus principales retos y qué necesitan? ¿Y cómo este paquete legislativo cambiaría sus vidas? Gracias.
Excelente pregunta, Adriana, muchas gracias. Sí, lo que hemos visto, un gran ejemplo es en Monterrey, en el condado de Monterrey, que hay una colaboración muy significante de los médicos, de las clínicas y de los que abogan, ¿no?, para los campesinos, pero también de los rancheros. Lo que pasa es que sí se necesita el esfuerzo estatal y el mensaje para ampliar la importancia de esto, porque todavía no es totalmente aceptado por muchos rancheros el dejar que entren médicos a los campos. Y hemos visto y hemos estresado esto desde el principio, la importancia de que haya más confianza entre campesinos y los médicos, y por eso va a ayudar para que usen los hogares, ¿no?, del Housing for Harvest, que se hagan el rastreo de contact tracing, que participen en estas cosas importantes y que se hagan los exámenes de COVID. So sí, hay ejemplos excelentes. También en Sonoma County va a empezar, en Ventura, y ya hay una forma, un programa oficial de llevar médicos a los campos. Lo que necesitamos es ampliar el mensaje al nivel estatal. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Irene.
Gracias.
This is Yvette Cabrera from GRIST. I just had a follow-up question tied to AB 2043. It says that it ensures enforcement by Kalosha of its COVID-19 guidance. I was wondering if that enforcement includes any penalties for any of the agricultural companies that don't comply.
So I appreciate the question, and I know I have staff on the call that is welcome to add, but our bill, it does not include any type of penalties related to non-compliance issues. And certainly that is something that is being monitored, I know, by the California State Attorney General, but our bill does not address that in any way.
Mr. Rivas, this is Michael
Yes,
Miller with the California Association of Wine Grape Growers. I can help answer that question, I believe.
Right.
So what is happening is that Kalosha is pretty aggressively pursuing it. They are, when they find a violation, frequently they're doing multiple violations, tying them together. So what they're saying is, for example, you have a situation where workers have to be protected from outdoor heat. So they have to provide shade structures. At the same time, with COVID-19, those shade structures have to be spaced to allow for social distancing. So if they find a violation, and as I understand it, they're finding very few violations, that employers are aggressively trying to enforce it. But when they do find a violation, they're citing for both. They're citing for the outdoor heat violation as well as for the violation for COVID guidelines. So they're putting the two together in many cases. And I did just want to also thank you for working with us. I think relative to AB 2043, it represents an opportunity where I think the grower community, ag employers, and ag employees alike can come together, because we are both striving hard to protect, employers, protect employees, and we're working together in a way in a most extraordinary situation of COVID-19 and now these wildfire smoke. There's mention of Sonoma County recently. I just want to point to, after the 2017 fires, Sonoma growers created a nonprofit fund to help workers who had lost their homes, who had lost wages, and they've provided $1.3 million in support to ag employees in the form of gift cards, in the form of rent relief, in the form of wage replacement, and that continues to this day. And if anything, the need is getting greater and greater, and our growers in Sonoma are working very, very closely with the employees and those representing employees to come up with ways to make sure that the needs are met for everybody involved. And I'm very proud of the work that they're doing in Sonoma, especially in your district as well, where they're stepping up, and growers are taking this very, very seriously, and they're working closely with our employees and other groups and with you to find solutions that work for everybody. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Kayla Kirby asked to any of the Assembly members, when can we expect Governor Newsom to approve or deny these bills?
Well, if I can, make the first initial comment, we hope we do that. We hope he signs this legislation soon. That is, all of, really the purpose of our press conference this morning is to, ensure that we continue our advocacy on the importance of this issue. And we just, certainly urge the governor to sign this important package of bills as soon as he possibly can. My colleagues are free to. I also know that we are joined by our colleague, Assemblywoman Wendy Carrillo from Los Angeles, who's been, a fierce advocate and a champion for our most vulnerable, essential workers, amid this pandemic. So, Wendy, really appreciate you joining the call, and please, if there are other members of the legislature that would like to comment, please feel free.
Kathy Novak from KCBS. Do you want to ask your question? All right, she left it in the chat box. I will ask it for her. Can I ask the panelists if you have seen an improvement in the situation for farm workers in the Central Valley since the governor declared it a COVID hotspot and sent strike teams to the region? Do you see more resources becoming available?
Robert, you want me to jump in on this one?
Yeah, Devin.
Yeah, actually, here in Tulare County, just read in the press this morning that our numbers are actually down. We're not quite to that 8%, but since we put that 54 million down here with the strike teams, we've seen a huge reduction. Tulare County is now at 8.7%. So we're almost there to the 8% that the state's asking for. So we have seen a reduction. We've seen these, the PPE, we've seen all these things that we have been pushing for be implemented. So the numbers are actually moving in the right direction. I know it's hard for us and for the families that have loved ones that we've lost. But these aren't numbers, these are people, these are families, these are everybody in communities out there struggling, but the numbers are starting to go in the right direction. So we have seen, Kathy, to answer the question, the numbers are going down, and the strike teams and everything are working.
If there are no additional questions.
Yes, I have another question. When is the last date that the governor can sign or veto this bill? Basically, what is his deadline?
The last day of September, the end of the month.
Thank you.
Hi, Annabelle Munoz here with ABC7. This question is for anyone who can hopefully paint a picture of what the situation is like for farm workers, specifically in Southern California counties. when it comes to how widespread COVID-19 has been here, as well as how farm workers have been affected by climate conditions and how you expect these bills would shift that.
Mr. Chairman, happy to take the question. With the mentioning of climate, we've had some weather in the 115, 120 degrees, certainly playing into the impact of the working conditions. But I can tell you that through the efforts that have been made, working collaboratively with both our nonprofit organizations along with our farmers, we have been able to see some significant improvements of working conditions and curtailment of the COVID-19 increased numbers. Curtailment meaning, having to see a flattening of those numbers, but there is a lot of work to be done. These three proposals guarantee greater safety, greater access to both healthcare and other services that are essential to our farm workers. But we do see this package, as the chairman mentioned, first of its kind in the nation, having a tremendous impact, not knowing how much longer, COVID-19 will stick around. And although much has been talked about moving into the next year, we want to make sure that we have all of the policies in place to be able to prevent additional impacts in communities like ours and up and down the state of California, has been mentioned today.
It looks like Anna Padilla has a question. We've been hearing a lot about the issues on meat packing and COVID spread, most recently at Foster Farms. Can you give us an example on how strike teams mitigate COVID spread in situations like that?
And Liz, I'm not sure if we have someone on this call that can accurately answer that question, but we'd be happy to.
Chairman, you want me to, I can dive into this.
Sure, Devin, sure.
Sure. So what the strike teams do when they go in is they handle, they look at safety protocol, they look at OSHA standards, they make sure that the supervisors and the staff are trained on PPE, on how to properly use the PPE. I know this because I saw this firsthand with our nursing homes here in Tulare County. But the biggest thing is making sure that the safety measures are actually being implemented properly to ensure that nobody's missing any of the steps, and that way everybody's going through the procedures in the right direction. And they do a lot of train the trainer to make sure that the people at the staffing level continue to train new staff as they come in, and that everybody's following the procedures correctly.
This is Marco Revuelta from Telemundo 15 here in the Coachella Valley. My question is for Assemblymember Garcia in Spanish. ¿Cuál es su mensaje para la comunidad campesina que se encuentra en el Valle de Coachella?
Sí, Marco, buenos días. El mensaje es muy directo y claro, que estamos abogando para asegurar que el Estado de California implemente más estratégicas y políticas públicas para proteger al trabajador en el campo. En este caso, estamos hablando de más protecciones en el ambiente del trabajo, más acceso a programas de salud y al mismo tiempo más acceso a las cortes, que son importantísimas durante este tiempo que estamos sufriendo de esta pandemia. Ese sería el mensaje, que seguimos trabajando como legislatura, como legisladores latinos. Tenemos aquí a la vocera, la presidenta de la bancada del Comité Latino, que recalcó la importancia de estas propuestas como prioridad para nuestros californianos de raíces latinas que trabajan en los empleos esenciales y en este caso específicamente hablando de los trabajadores del campo.
Perfecto. Y en español, ¿sí puede compartir con los televidentes cuándo se espera que el gobernador, o cuándo es el último día que el gobernador puede firmar esto?
Tenemos hasta el 30, el último de septiembre, para ver si el gobernador aprueba estas propuestas, y esta conferencia de prensa es con ese propósito de llamar la atención al gobernador que estas propuestas son importantísimas para California, para los trabajadores esenciales, específicamente los trabajadores del campo.
Muchísimas gracias.
De nada.
Okay, if there are no additional questions, I will invite the Assembly members back to give their closing remarks.
Thank you, Liz. And, again, I really appreciate everyone making the time to join us here this morning for this virtual press conference. I want to thank our speakers, especially Pete and Irene, for their, their ongoing advocacy on behalf of our agricultural workers here in our state, amid this, this very challenging time. I want to thank all of my legislative colleagues, for being here, for their support and for their advocacy for not only our agricultural workers, but for, our constituencies up and down the state of California. Yesterday, our governor, Mr. Newsom, he issued a proclamation. It was a proclamation that declared it Latino Heritage Month. And he acknowledged that the state's Latino populations have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. Actions always speak louder than words. And now is his chance. It's our governor's chance to honor the Latino residents of the state, our communities, with action. We have done our part. The legislature has put together this package of legislation to protect lives from a virus that seems unstoppable in many rural areas of this state, our agricultural parts of this state. I know that the governor and I share the same goals. We all share the same goals: to protect our agricultural workers and ensure our agriculture industry remains viable. This legislation will help achieve those goals, and I therefore ask the governor to please sign this package of bills as soon as he possibly can. With that, I want to again thank everybody for joining our call, and look forward to the next time we have the opportunity to talk again. Thank you.